Now we come to the final act. And this is where we hear from, this is lovely, he's already sharing cards, from the ministers, the directors, and everyone else as we share some of what you've got. They're not going to make a presentation. We're going to engage in a discussion right now as to some of what we'll find in your own destinations. So share with us, if you may. You know that Dominica is now recovering from the Hurricane Maria. Share with us, if you may, some of the opportunities that are here. Now is a good time. Tremendous opportunities coming from the storm. Will you share with us some of those that would interest the diaspora?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I will use an area where I think no one will actually think of, in a sense. And I guess it's not as interesting as the other areas, but it is equally as important. Training, service standards. So obviously we promote our island. I always feel that there isn't sufficient trainers in the islands. Many times we have to bring in people to do these training sessions, and I think it's an opportunity for persons to have some type of service that can not only do one particular country, but obviously you have many islands. You can move from island to island to island, or it's a form of tourism to a certain extent. They can come from the other island and come to Dominica or likewise. So I think this is a very important area that is under-serviced, and I think those who have the experience and the ability can put together programs. And with the advent of technology, it doesn't have to be in classroom all the time. It can also be online. So I think this is a great opportunity. And I think throughout the Caribbean, we are all looking for more service providers to provide that type of service.
Minister Gaskin, we saw your video earlier at the start of this event. You talked about some of the ways you're engaging the diaspora and some of the opportunities that there are. Can you elaborate a bit, please?
First, let me just put Guyana in context, because I'm not sure who's here and how many of you actually know Guyana. But Guyana is a fairly big Caribbean country. We're not an island. We're on the mainland of South America. We're probably about 100 times the size of Trinidad and Tobago. And about 80% of our country of our land is covered with virgin rainforest. Guyana also means the land of many waters, because we have rivers all over the country. There's no shortage of fresh water. Unfortunately or fortunately, Guyana has been blessed with a number of valuable natural resources, such as gold and bauxite, the forest itself. We now have oil, we have diamonds, and a lot of agricultural lands. So we have, both pre- and post-independence, not relied on tourism, not relied on selling our country and promoting our country, because we've been a commodities exporter for some time now. And I wanted to put that in context. Well, for two reasons. One, I did have a question for Trina, but it had a bit of a preamble, and I didn't want to, make a presentation while asking a question. But my question, sorry for deviating a bit.
That's all right.
But my question, since it's topical, is this the kind of place that would appeal to millennials? And let me put it in, let me describe it a bit more. We have never relied on tourism. We don't have mass-based tourism. Our tourism industry is young. We have a chance to design tourism that suits us. And the model that we are looking at is definitely not mass-based tourism. We're looking for that niche market, people who are interested in enjoying nature, who want to get out there, perhaps switch off their phones and social media and just enjoy what nature has to offer. We have lots of nature. We have animals, we have, plant diversity. We also have a rich ethnic diversity. We have a significant indigenous population. We have significant Indian and African populations. And we have a significant, as you can imagine, mixed population. So, and that comes with different cultures and different cuisine. And so I'm curious to know, within that millennial group, which is a fairly big group, is there a niche in that group that would enjoy our kind of tourism?
Yes, and I can say that outside of Guyana Carnival that I attended this year, I do think there is an opportunity for adventure travel, for nature seekers. Even if I do go into the wilderness and turn off my social media, there's many Instagrammable moments. I know for a fact when I went, Kiter Falls was amazing, massive Instagrammable moment for millennials. Even the plane ride up there, incredibly scary, but I could tell people I flew private because technically it was only the pilot, me, and one other person. So several Instagrammable moments in there. So I do feel that there's an opportunity, well, do not feel, there is an opportunity to target millennials in regards to what Guyana has to offer. One, from just the vast natural resources, from hanging out in the seawall. You may, Guyanese may think that it's a regular day, but for foreigners, it's super cool. And of course, Guyana Carnival, even though it just started this year, has great potential. So definitely see there's an opportunity to engage millennials in Guyana from a tourist perspective.
I'd like to ask the junior minister from the BVI, Archibald Christian, to just share with us, if you may, some of your thoughts on how you can engage the diaspora, what are the opportunities that exist, particularly now because the BVI itself was also very badly hit by the hurricanes last year.
I think we find ourselves in the BVI in a very unique position. I think most of you who paid attention to the hurricanes that impacted the Caribbean would have known by now that the hurricanes came directly over the BVI. We had two. We had Irma, and 10 days later we had Maria. Almost all of our hotels were damaged, our villas, our marine sector damaged. The unique thing about the BVI is that we comprise of about 60 islands, islets, and keys. And if you're looking for a destination to have an experience every day in a month, the BVI is that place. You can explore one island every day for a month and have a different experience. On the main island of Tortola, you would find where all the business and commerce is stationed. You find your businesses, your shops, your government offices. On Virgin Gorda, which we call the gem of our islands, you find all of the resorts, high-end resorts, boutique resorts. On Jos van Dijk, which is one of the smallest destinations, we have a very cultural community. And on Anegada, which is the flattest of the island, the highest point is about 13 feet above sea level. The whole island is considered a beach. It's almost natural. And so the opportunities that exist right now, we have to rebuild almost all of those hotels. The current owners would be no doubt shopping for additional investors and persons to do joint ventures. We have one of the privately owned islands that is currently going to develop a 5-star resort comprising of several hotels, marinas, family entertainment, and so on. And so we right now have several programs in place that would allow investors to come to the BVI. One such program is the Hotel Aids Ordinance, which allows you to be exempt from customs duty on building materials, machinery, equipment. A certain class of workers will be exempt from payroll taxes up to a certain period of time. And then we have what is called pioneer status, which allows businesses that would be coming into the territory for the very first time to also benefit from those programs, duty-free exemption, exemption from taxes for certain classes of workers up to a certain period of time. We also have an officer in the Premier's office, which would fast-track any development applications for development in the islands. And we do encourage persons to joint venture with local BVI landers. If you have a company that you want to establish in the BVI, especially if it's a new company that's bringing something entirely new to the BVI, and you find a local investor to partner with, your application is also fast-tracked. And so we think that the opportunities in the BVI, based on the fact that, yes, we were down, but we are back, and we are in a position now where we want to make investment opportunities more attractive than ever before. Our economy is based on two pillars: financial services, which provides 60 cents out of every dollar, and tourism, which employs more persons across the economy. And so as we look at diversifying our economy, as we look at diversifying our tourism products, I saw quite a few things that I see in other Caribbean islands, and I'm not going to be ashamed to tell you, my director of tourism is here. Some of those things we'll be looking at because those new products present investment opportunities for local investors and foreign investors. And, I want to put out a challenge here. The majority of the investors in the Virgin Islands, in the BVI, come from North America, followed by Europe. We are still trying to get Caribbean investors to invest in the Virgin Islands, and it's something that I personally would like to see happen. We are small islands, we are close by, and we need to be able to invest more in our neighbors so that we can feel as if we are part of one Caribbean territory.
What are some of the incentives that you can give to them to attract them to be part of that? Because I think that's a critical point that you've just made, that many of your investors are not from the Caribbean or of the Caribbean. If you want to get a lot more of those, what are some of the things that you can do and what's available? So think it through, but Donovan, I first want to hear from you in terms of Jamaica. What is it? How you engage the diaspora? What are the business opportunities available to them?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon again. In relation to Jamaica, and specific to the diaspora, we have a very large diaspora community. Actually, our diaspora community is larger than the population of Jamaica.
And what is the population of Jamaica?
The population of the diaspora is about 4.5 million. The population of Jamaica is 2.75 million. So the diaspora population almost doubles the population of Jamaica, which puts us in an interesting place simply because it gives us an opportunity to tap into a marketplace that is quite affluent, enabled, connected, and lots of millennials, educated, understand technology, and understand what it takes to get businesses going. But I also must speak of the fact that we are also an evolving destination as it relates to tourism. There's a misnomer about when people speak of Jamaica and speak of tourism, they speak of all-inclusive. And I want to clarify that misnomer for those who probably still believe in this thing called all-inclusive. All-inclusive is but a concept, and the concept is you pay for your room stay and your food and drink at your room stay before you get there. That's genuinely what all-inclusive is. Beyond that, therefore, we have to create a destination beyond the hotels. And there's a phrase that I've begun to say more of. In Jamaica, in the destination, we have to continue to move tourism from the shores or the outskirts to the inside. And we've begun the process of doing that in earnest. And to do that, we have some very, very clear objectives in mind. First, we have to continue to tap new markets for visitors. We have to continue to raise new opportunities for investment, which part of the discussion we're having here in terms of the diaspora. We also have to continue to develop our human capital. Again, an opportunity for the diaspora to be involved and to be engaged. But I think most importantly, we have to continue to diversify our product. And to do that, especially on the product side, we're focused on things like gastronomy, creating new food experiences within the destination, which again is an area of real investment opportunity for persons in the diaspora looking for investment opportunities. We're also on a journey of building 5 artisan villages across the country. One of them is already in the process of being built. And the idea behind that is Jamaicans traditionally are very artistic, very good with their hands, very good at creating things, whether it's by the business of art or knitting or creation of memorabilias. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, encouragingly, the level of groundswell that has been created around these naturally gifted people of our society, both in Jamaica as well as interest from outside Jamaica, from the diaspora. It's been unbelievable. People are actually asking, how do they get involved? How do they begin to earmark space in some of these artisan villages as an opportunity for them to create their own business in them? So there truly are a tremendous amount of real economic and opportunities that are waiting investors, interested individuals, small and medium-sized companies to engage in this whole business of tourism, which, by the way, Jamaica last year received 4.4 million visitors, earned $3.7 billion in revenues, and is probably scheduled to grow to some close to 5 million visitors this year. So there's no shortage of opportunity in volumes. And so, what I'm hoping that hopefully we will get to as part of the discussion is truly how do you begin to truly express serious interest and get to work in terms of making some of those interests come to life.
I really and truly believe that there's lots of opportunities in the Caribbean, but before we can embrace those opportunities, I strongly believe that we have to recognize and be aware of the fact that we have some problems in the Caribbean. Because it's out of our understanding of those problems is where we're going to see the business opportunities. And I can mention a few of them, and some of them by now pet peeves of mine, because we usually end up at forums like these, and as Caribbean people, we love to talk about them. But at the end of the day, nothing gets done. Well, I'm on a quest to change that. So let's talk airlift within the Caribbean. I think it's a travesty when some of us in the Caribbean can really wake up every single day, look at an island over there, a few miles away, and realize that it's going to take probably $500 to get there and back. That's a problem to fix. And since it's a problem to fix, I can almost guarantee you that within the diaspora, there are people with the knowledge and everything else that it will take to solve a problem like that. You spoke about the size of the Jamaican diaspora versus the size of the Jamaican population. Well, I would venture to say that it's a similar story for all of us. And the majority of us who are out here in the diaspora, we're not just out here, we're out here really and truly contributing. But we need to embrace, those of us who live in the Caribbean and on our islands need to recognize that there are some problems and there are serious problems, and we have the answer. We have the human resource, it's just not home. And they're the ones who can actually fix it. But then there's something else. I live on an island, Nevis, and I don't know how many people agree with me, but I really and truly know, I recognize that we have an issue on Nevis. And the issue is that we have a labor shortage. We have absolutely more jobs than people to work them. And we also have a labor shortage from the skill perspective. We have an issue with having probably the qualifications, the level of people with qualifications to actually hold some of the jobs that are necessary to really push us forward. Again, as I say, I'm not a politician, and even the politicians back home may disagree with me, but that's fine. But what I see in that is a further opportunity for development, because it's an issue. And where there's absolutely no reason to start a business, there's absolutely no reason to go into a particular venture unless you're solving a problem. And the Caribbean is ripe and completely filled with issues to solve. And because there are issues to solve and problems to solve, there are opportunities. And we, as the Caribbean people, need to take the bull by the horn. We're the ones who have to get up and really begin to solve this problem, because we can. We can. And you know what's interesting? This big discrepancy between foreign investment and local Caribbean investment in our islands. Honestly, where does that come from? That's another issue to solve. And it can easily be solved by us attacking some of the other things that we just spoke about. This difficulty, because of the cost of inter-Caribbean movement, hampers us, because the exchanges that there used to be are not there anymore, and the problems grow. And because they're growing so much and so fast, it really says that we really need to solve that interconnectivity problem so that we can move and work with each other and solve problems.
Okay.
Diaspora is somebody who was born in the islands and came here, or is it first generation born here, or second generation? Just for the Jamaican numbers, I wanted to know, what is diaspora?
The definition is if you're born of the country's heritage, meaning you have a parent or some line of relationship all the way to you, great-grands, grands, and so on, who would have had national heritage. So you can born here in the U.S. to a Jamaican parent, and you would be counted as part of that diaspora. As well as you could have been born in Jamaica, migrated to another country, and obviously maintain your diaspora status.
I just wanted to give the audience some information as well. The BVI is a very tiny nation. The population is perhaps just a little under 30,000 now. Since Hurricane Irma and Maria, there was an exodus of persons away from the territory. But of that population, 60% of that population are persons who reside or who come from other Caribbean islands, North America, Europe, and the rest of the world. The majority come from the Caribbean islands. They have been coming to the BVI from the 1950s. They have come to the BVI, they have worked, developed, they have assimilated into our communities. Some have acquired belonger status, residency status, and it takes a village to raise a child. Those persons are employed across the entire sector of our economy. They're employed in construction, hospitality, legal services, financial services. So for us, the BVI is the melting pot of the Caribbean. And where we are today could not have been possible without the Caribbean nationals. And so for us, the diaspora of the Caribbean is very important to the BVI. Having said that, I am still of the opinion that I'm going to the point that the gentleman from Nevis made, and I suspect that he's going to be a politician. he tried to divorce himself from us up here, but he's heading in that direction. I suspect that based on all current investment opportunities, we have a small business unit within the Trade Department that specifically attracts small business persons or companies. There are very attractive incentives and programs that are available. So you can find within the BVI an opportunity as a small entrepreneur, whether as an individual or a small company, to be able to access programs, to be able to do business in the BVI.
I've had the great opportunity of working in the enterprise private sector industry and living and working in 5 different Caribbean countries over almost a 7-year period, including 2 years spent in Guyana, a year spent in St. Kitts and Nevis, a year spent in Antigua, and a year and a half spent in St. Lucia. And the point is very valid that there are serious problems that affect us uniquely. The bigger problem is that we are not seeking to build sustainable plans and initiatives to manage and handle those problems. We talk a lot about them. We all know what they are. They're not secret. We read them in the news every day. We see them on the internet. We know them, right? So they're not new to us. The challenge is, and this is where I think we have to challenge ourselves as leaders, but I think also the business community in the diaspora as well as in countries have to begin to have a working conversation about implementing plans, because plans are not going to implement themselves and they're not going to find funding by themselves. The issue of FDIs, foreign direct investment, is a real issue, but it's also a practical solution for governments of the region, because the investments aren't coming from anywhere else. And if you want investment to make your projects work, you're going to work with those people who provide the funding to do so. And so there is your dilemma. Do you sit and wait for your repatriated societies to invest, or do you find investment you need to move your projects along? And so I think what's more important is it's not that we have a problem, but it is that we have to find the will within where the spaces that we sit to find what we need to implement the projects and initiatives we need to move our societies along.
In Guyana, we're in the final stages of developing what we're calling a diaspora engagement strategy. And I think what's important is that I said earlier that our country is ethnically diverse and diverse in many other ways. And so is our diaspora. And I won't sit here and tell you that I fully understand the needs of our diaspora, because we don't. The diaspora is very complex. We can't, it's hard to define, as the question that was put by the lady who asked about whether the diaspora includes first generation, second generation. Who is the diaspora? What are their needs? We prefer to engage the diaspora rather than to sit down in Guyana and come up with a set of laws and incentives that we feel will attract the diaspora that we cannot even clearly define and perhaps do not fully understand. So our laws, our investment laws, for instance, don't discriminate between domestic and foreign investors. We don't have any special incentives for diaspora Guyanese or West Indians. But what we have found in our engagements with the diaspora is that they're not asking for special incentives. Most of them want to contribute. They want to make a difference. They have various expertise and experiences that can play an important role in developing our country. They know it, we know it. We want to engage them about how we can get them involved. As investors, I don't necessarily agree with the statement you made, Mr. Chair, sorry,
No,
but
that's all right.
that within the diaspora, there is not sufficient capital for large-scale projects. I think there is, I think the members of the diaspora, the population in the Caribbean diaspora, certainly have the wherewithal to raise capital. They have capital of their own, but they certainly understand how to raise capital even if they didn't have for very large-scale projects. So I don't necessarily think that we need to definitively set up incentive schemes for small businesses, for diaspora. I mean, our countries, I think most of our countries have some small business institution that with some framework that provides assistance and incentives for small businesses. Whether we want to have a specific one now for diaspora small businesses, I don't think that is what is needed, and I don't get the impression that that is what the diaspora is asking for.
As Minister Gaskin said, he actually said some of what I was about to say, but I think that the main thing that, especially being here, that we find is that the members of the diaspora just need the information. A lot of what is happening is that you have to package the information just as you would package the information for any other investor that is looking to come to your various countries. You do that just the same for the diaspora. And I mean, we're talking about borrowing and doing the best practices that exist in other countries, I would say that if you want to look at what happens in Jamaica, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs now has a diaspora unit, and biannually, we have the Diaspora Conference where we invite persons to come back to Jamaica. And one of the key things that we do is that when they come to Jamaica, we present them with these opportunities, just as we would do at any other investment forum.
Well, there has been a lot of focus on the Caribbean diaspora in terms of investing in the Caribbean as it relates to financial contributions. But I want to know, however, how much have there other types of potential contributions been explored? Specifically, the Caribbean diaspora is a significant perpetuator and practitioner of certain customs and traditions that have, to a certain extent, been phased out in the Caribbean as the culture evolved. So my question is, how has the Caribbean diaspora been used, or how can the Caribbean diaspora serve as a useful repository that contributes to the heritage tourism product of the region?
If we had the answer to that, we might not be sitting here today. Okay. But we certainly recognize that there is, a wealth of experience and expertise that can contribute considerably towards economic, social, and all types of development in the Caribbean, and that expertise resides in our diaspora. How we can tap into it, I think that has to be done a little more scientifically. We need to get a better understanding of, what, we know the experience and the expertise, the financial wherewithal exists, but how do we tap into it? I'm not sure. We don't have the answers. We do have what I said is a diaspora engagement strategy in the making, and it's quite complex, and it does cover the full range of intergenerational demographics, but it still doesn't provide a solution. It's a document right now. It's not yet in its implementing stages. So we're here to find out.
Okay, I've got
and
a
if you
gentleman.
could help us with the answer, we'd
There's
appreciate it.
a gentleman back there who probably knows.
I'm Andrew Sharp. I'm based in Massachusetts. I'm involved with the New England region. And first, I must say, Jamaica, big up. You're doing a good job in terms of trying to get into the diaspora. One of the issues that we'd love for other regions to collaborate, it's not just New York alone, and I always say that, and I said that last year. I'm based in New England. We have MIT, we have the best hospital. How can we collaborate with the region? There's a lot of organization in the New England is looking for collaboration. Massachusetts is the fourth largest diaspora nationwide. There's a lot of mission going on. So I'm putting this out to everyone on that panel, including Jamaica, more collaboration, more effort in working with us, because what we find in Massachusetts, sometimes we don't see the government. Passport issue, they forget us. Only New York and Connecticut. The diaspora is growing massively in New England. So we definitely want to play an important part. I was sitting down with the mayor of Salem, the mayor of Somerville, and the mayor of City of Boston. They're working on a project to do commute by sea with ferries. We introduced to them, why not collaborate with the region, see what you have and what we can do in terms of collaboration. Funding is available in mass for all of this through the government. After this discussion, I would like to meet with you guys to pass on the relevant information, because definitely more information needs to right across the diaspora. There's many, DC, all over. I've just been involved with the National Caribbean Heritage Month. The end of the month, we got the proclamation from the governor for the Caribbean region. They see the importance of the Caribbean American in Massachusetts. So definitely, we want to play an important part. We got to engage more with the diaspora. And I, as a representative, because Johnson know me, I used to live in the Caribbean, and now I migrated here in America. And I'm ensuring that our people are protected and the region is better.
I'm Melissa Noel. I am a freelance reporter, and I focus most of my stories on making sure that Caribbean stories are told in mainstream news here in the States. I'm a first-generation Guyanese American, born here, grew up in Guyana, came back here, so I really feel like I have a really unique perspective when it comes to the kinds of stories that I do. I've really had to carve out this niche because oftentimes people, when they think diaspora, we did say up here that it is people who were not only born there and came here, but also people who have parents or grandparents from there. However, you're often not treated as such, but you do want to get involved. This is Caribbean American Heritage Month, this is Caribbean Week New York. There are endless activities, there are endless groups, there are so many different organizations and entities that exist, and unfortunately, they kind of exist in silos. And people often don't know about something until the event has passed, the month is gone. So I definitely do agree that there is a great wealth of organizations, there's a great wealth of things that happen, but there's no real central place that people can go to find it. Like I've been asked for the last month, hey, where's the list where I can find all of the activities that are going on for this Caribbean American Heritage Month? And literally, there was not one central place that I could find them. I had to create one of my own and start sharing with people. That's something that shouldn't happen. We have such a wealth of not only information, but such a wealth of events and organizations right here in the diaspora that we do not tap into. And often people get frustrated and they said, okay, my own people are not paying attention to me. I'm gonna go perform at this corporate event instead. They'll pay me mine. They'll pay me on time. They'll put me top of mind. So I really encourage everyone to, when you say you're tapping into the diaspora, make sure you tap into the people that you may not have been born there, but you you love your people, you love your culture, and if you were, you really want to give back and continue to make sure that people experience the diverse and beautiful culture of the Caribbean every single day, because that's what I do in my job, and that's what I hope to continue to do.
But an entrepreneur is a particular type of person. Luckily, I had my father who taught me everything, and I guess it was an informal sort of education. And I think in the same 2003, I realized if I didn't have insurance, I would have been a dead man. If I didn't have my parents to rely on, and it made me realize I had to put my life in perspective, and that's the only time I began saving money and stuff like that, and began reading. But you have to realize that our parents traditionally teach us, and the average parent, I would say 99% of parents, they tell you go to school and get a job, go to school, get good grades, and then go to university and then eventually get a job. So the average individual is not thinking about business. They're thinking about going to school and getting a job. Now let us put in perspective, the average individual who's going to migrate, they're also going more than likely 99.9% of the time to also get a job. So therefore, they are also to a certain extent risk averse. And more than likely, they're going to teach their kids the same type of way. So that is also a challenge in terms of getting the diaspora to come back. But I think the bigger issue, as many persons have mentioned here, is the whole issue of communication. Are we doing a proper job in terms of educating and communicating to our diaspora? Do we have a proper database of all of our diaspora? As you said, there's so many different silos, and each person wants to have their own information, so getting a message out is so difficult to all of these people. Here, when I think about it, we're talking about the whole thing of opportunities, but maybe our investment arm should be here with proper presentations and inviting the public, inviting the diaspora to come in and do. If you look at here, I mean, if you take all of us out of here, there's hardly any diaspora here. So I think we all have to do a much better job as it relates to communication, and we cannot leave it upon you or the CTO alone to do this communication. So next year, when we're talking about the whole issue of diaspora, we as each country has to send out that information to all of our people to say, hey, on this day, there's going to be this event, and you should see people standing all on top of there. Plus, you have the opportunities to pitch investment opportunities. So I think we have to look at from inside and say, hey, let us do a much better job as it relates to communication.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we have to wrap it up. We would love to talk all night, but we have to wrap it up. So I'm just going to give you, and Greg, whatever it was you were going to say, it's a good time to say it. I'm giving you a few seconds, really, to just give us some quick thoughts as we wrap it up. We'll begin with you and just work our way down.
Well, Andrew, thanks a lot for mentioning the word collaboration, man, because honestly, in the islands, we need to look outwards the same way we look outwards for the FDI, the foreign direct investment. Yeah, we can look outwards to our own people in the diaspora to get that done. The same way you can't have water. Andrew only got 30 seconds, man. Come on.
Yeah, you're cutting into his 30 seconds now.
So the same way you can't have water without wet, you can't have successful engagement with the diaspora without that word collaborations. And that collaboration has to come as part of a systematic plan to really make it happen and make it successful.
Thank you. Mr. Gasket.
Well, I just want to echo the words of Minister Tong, Senator Tong. Next year, if I'm to come here, I would like to see a full house. I would like to see the balcony full. And I'm not casting blame. Perhaps it's us, perhaps it's you, perhaps it's them. Who knows who it is? But the issue is that we don't have the turnout here that we expected. So we all have to work on it and mobilize our people to come out here next year so that we can have a fuller engagement and we can have some follow-ups that are more meaningful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
And on the back of that point, I'm not going to belabor what has been said, but put two opportunities out there right away. Recently, or last year, Jamaica created the Tourism Center of Excellence, Innovation and Excellence. a month ago, we graduated 150 student cohort who are now certified in the tourism trade. So these are persons who are either qualified but not certified to do what they do, or experienced but not certified. They're now certified working with an international certification university to make them certified internationally. That's one. And the second one is, in January of next year, Jamaica will host Caribbean Marketplace. And one of the big things that I have pushed for and will execute on in January of next year is a small and medium tourism enterprise forum. And it's going to be a 2-day exercise. And the idea is to bring the supply side of tourism together with investors, entrepreneurs, all the stakeholders on the firm side of the economy. Because to be truthful, if we, as the region now, it's not just Jamaica, if we continue to only focus on the demand side of the industry, which is to bring visitors, eventually we will all suffer from what is called over-tourism, which means the people of our country will starve because our visitors consume 10 times more than the people who live in the country. And so we have to begin to understand that we have to harness the supply side, harness the natural resources, harness the industries, harness the business sector, harness the financial sector to be able to deliver for the tourism industry what it needs to continue to bring more visitors to our shores. So that in and of itself, if you don't see that within the diaspora as an opportunity to get involved, then I'm not sure what else will.
I'm honored to have been able to share the platform with my esteemed colleagues here this evening. This is my very first CTO meeting at this level. And I think I want to associate myself with the sentiments that have been expressed from my right down so far, and no doubt from my left, with respect to the attendance. I'm not quite sure how it's done, but when I walked into the room this afternoon, I got energized just seeing the sitting and the amount of tables and chairs that were here. And then as we got closer to the commencement time, I said, well, how is this supposed to work? We're going to be speaking to each other. It's the choir speaking to the choir singing to the choir. But nevertheless, I think the message has been sent. I don't want to cast any blame as well, but certainly for us to be able to reach our Caribbean brothers and sisters, we need to do something to ensure that at the next meeting, as indicated before, that the balconies are filled and all the tables and chairs are filled. So I'm anxiously awaiting for the next round to come across. But Mr. Johnson, thank you very much for the kind invitation.
Let's keep it very simple. The ministry, the government of Dominica, the tourism department, we are committed to working together with not only just the CTU, but all of the other Caribbean islands to ensure that next year's event, especially the Diaspora one, will be a lot more successful, and that it'll be an opportunity to expose to our persons up here what are the different opportunities, and hopefully coming out of that you can have some investments in the Caribbean islands.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let us put our hands together and applaud our panel.